On Monday, August 10th, at approximately 11:27 a.m., one of the longest and most annoying wars in esports has ever seen began, forever altering the world of Dota 2 and beyond. It was, according to those whom survived it, one of the most grueling and frankly dumb things to ever happen in the history of esports. They call it now, months after its end, the Naming War. On that cool, crisp morning at August 10th, the final discussions for a newly created studio were in the works. The last of the talent was being invited. The coffee was being drunk. But one last thing no one knew was the name of the studio they were creating. The name of the studio they had all sworn to start. The name of Destiny. The time had come for the new studio they together had crafted to be named. But little did they know it would change their lives forever. Sunsfan began the battle with the first name that popped into his head, crafted along with his most trusted confidant, Cinder. When they invited the 10 other studio members into that group, the title read thusly: Balls Deep Studio. Their name was fucking stupid, but Sunsfan and Cinderin believed, somehow, that it was a good idea. And thus was the inception of the first party in the naming war, the fucking stupid. When the rest of the crew heard about the name, they splintered into two opposing factions. The serious group, led by Sajidine, who fought the name vehemently. She claimed that no studio called Balls Deep Studio would ever receive work, and that Sunsfan was indeed a moron. She was joined by Sir Action Slacks, who, despite his stupid nature, was intelligent enough to know that you don't name yourself after testicles. Zyori was also against naming the studio anything testicle-related for his own private reasons. Pimp Munkle was German or something, so of course he ain't into that stuff neither. As soon as the serious squad was formed, a third entity entered the scene called the Silent. These men and women were led by Draskell, who hardly ever showed up to meetings and never said a goddamn thing when he did. His second in command was Purge, who was so calculating, so focused that he seldom said more than one word at a time. Finally, Odie Pixel and Marunda were first firmly in the group The Silent, not due to failure to speak, but due to always talking about shit that had nothing to do with naming the studio. Sometimes, Mout would laugh. With the clear difference in theology, the parties began their war with one another. It was the serious party that was able to draw first blood. Nikki demanded that any reference to human reproductive organs be banned, while Sunsfan held strong. His second-in-command Cinderin agreed to the terms, so long as they made a clear guideline to follow between all parties in the future. And so, the Grand Treaty was drafted for the first time. The treaty was simple, a set of rules and guidelines for all parties to follow in the name of the Great War. This first draft was bare bones, no penis or testicles. The name had to be funny, but not overly stupid. It could relate to Dota, but not be strictly related to Dota. It had to have cool letters when compressed, like Beyond the Summit 2. They called upon a third party to come up with a name, someone too dumb and innocent to offend anybody. It fell to Slacks. Slacks grabbed a hotel notebook and a pen and went to work furiously. In 24 hours, 3 pages of names were crafted. He presented them all to the group, with the serious group rallying behind Radiant Casting Studio, a professional and positive name which was easily thematic and could easily have content made for it. The fucking stupid alliance rallied behind one simple theme: horse. Also, Sayori suggested Under the Valley and Best Casting Studio, but everyone thought he was joking even though he was totally serious. You see, the horse had always been close to Cinderin and Sons fans' heart. Why the horse, we do not know. But what we do know is the unofficial mascot of stupidity was already in the game. Shirts already existed. And the horse face was already loved. The stupid group demanded that the name of the studio be horse-related. And thus, the Great Horse Wars began. Happy Horse, Horsehead, and Dead Horse Studios with the tagline, "You can't beat us," were suggested to the group. Many from the silent were lost to Sons fan on that day, with OD, Pixel, and Mount moving to this stupid alliance due to their love of equine nature. The serious group lost Slacks as he had grown to love the horse as well, leaving Nikki and her newly adopted second-in-command Marunda to fend off the horsey rebellion. Nikki claimed for some reason that Chinese people wouldn't like anything horse-related. While the stupid group questioned her claims and proposed tens of hundreds of horse names, no one wanted to challenge her, because no one knew anything about Chinese culture and didn't want to sound racist. It was a blow to the stupid alliance that they would never recover from. Mott converted from the silent and proposed a new treaty. He proposed that the studio be animal named because animals were easy to make logos for, and he really liked animals. For the first time, the group was in agreement. But what animal would it be? The good studio had already claimed cats, much to Sons fan and Nikki's dismay, and Beyond the Summit had weird-ass bird things. Join Dota already had Toby Juan, so that was out as well. The crew argued for days on what animal it should be. Then a voice no one had expected. Purge had been silent since the beginning of the debate, listening and calculating for weeks, only noticeable by mumbles of agreeance or moans of defiance. But on that fateful day of August 27th, 2015, Purge said the first and only thing he would say in the great naming war. I like ducks. Slacks went to sleep after Purge said the sentence, leaving the group as the rest began furiously agreeing with the idea. Ducks were the answer that they had been looking for, but what kind of duck? To what end? The suggestions began to pour in. Happy Duck Studios, Smiling Duck Studio, Duckity Duck Studios, and Shitty Duck Studios were all suggested, as the boundaries were crossed and alliances were formed. It was then that OD Pixel linked an image that would change all their lives forever. No one knows why Owen drew a picture of a hippo in Photoshop that day. Some believed that he had not heard anything about the duck, and simply left when he heard it was gonna be animal-related. Others believe that OD Pixel was literally on cocaine. But what we do know is that that picture of a hippo in front of the sun crossed all boundaries, and everyone, even the unmovable Nikki, fell in love. It was a hippo in front of the sun, a symbol of pride and humor, but it needed something more. After all, Purge liked ducks. For hours they attempted to come up with a hippo-themed duck hybrid, but to no avail. Talks began about them not having a duck or a hippo, and it seemed the short alliance would die as quickly as it came into being. Then Marunda said something that would shake the group entirely. It doesn't even look like a hippo, more like a moon cow. Moon cow. Not moo cow, as she had intended, but moon cow. Moon hippo, said General Shannon. Moon duck, said Purge. The group fell silent. OD's picture of the hippo in front of the sun was showing them the way. Cinderin thought the idea was incredible, to call it a moon duck and have the symbol be of a sun hippo. The hour was late. The decision had to be made. Finally, it was done. Moon duck was decided. Traskell literally never said a goddamn thing. Upon waking, Slacks was told the name, and he said it was the worst thing he had ever heard. He quoted, "It sounded like a Chinese food place that was closed down for health code violations." He threatened to leave the studio if they didn't change the name. No one cared. He showed up for work the next day anyway. When the official logo was drafted by the artist Black Phoenix, he thought the sun was supposed to be planet Earth because a hippo in front of the sun makes no sense. Pimp Munkle said they should keep the Earth instead of the sun because he was sick of working on the project. Nobody cared enough to argue, and it was finally over. Moonduck Studios was born. But what became of those few who fought so hard in those bitter weeks leading up to the end and the formation of a studio name that would be acclaimed for years to come? Suns fan loved the name of the logo, considering it a win for the fucking stupid alliance. He would go on to do many more stupid things for many more years. Cinderin makes his weird baby laugh every time he sees the logo and continues to giggle till this very day. Marunda credits herself with the creation of the name and tells everyone she meets that she's the one who did it. Nobody wants to argue with her in case anything goes south. Purge still likes ducks to this very day. Nikki, despite her serious nature, grew to love the Moonduck and supports it as much as she did when the serious suggestions were made of old. Pimp Munkle likes the Earth and imagines that the hippo is humping the planet every time he looks at the logo. Slack still hates the name, and when he tells people it, he always follows up with, "I had nothing to do with it. I think it's stupid too." Mout's love of animals was the key factor to ending the Great War, but he had always been modest about it, and never takes credit, even to this day. OD Pixel is still drawing animals in front of weird backdrops, whether it be a crippling addiction to narcotics or his twisted mind responsible. No one knows. Zyor never cared about the name of the studio in the first place, and still doesn't really. And Draskell literally never said anything in the 2.5 weeks of deliberation. The end.